Hello, and welcome again. If you're still watching, this is the next video in the series of the great ride around the Goulburn district. It is the Crookwell to Gunning Road Part 2, and at the end of this part, we will be in Gunning. Now, right at the beginning of this video, just as it started, might have seen some wind turbines on the right-hand side, large gateway, which is the access to the wind turbine to the wind farm. There are a number of them on this road. I said in an earlier video, Goulburn and the district around it is renowned for its windiness, especially during winter. So, of course, it makes sense to harness that wind to generate electricity. And for many of the farmers who live in this area, or some of the farmers who live in this, who live and work on this land, they're able to lease out part of their land for turbines and augment their income. Now, in starting this video, I probably should just make a comment about the last one where I was talking about bike safety and people in cars and so on. I'm not trying to put myself forward as an expert on motorcycle safety, and I'm not putting myself forward as any sort of safety police or telling other people how to ride or what to do. All I'm saying is that when I'm out riding, these are things that I see and these are things that have happened to me. Or that I've seen other drivers, I've seen car drivers do, or I've seen bike riders do that occur to me that make me a little bit concerned for everybody's safety. And they're things that I sort of think about when I'm riding, and that's why I'm talking about them now. I promised in earlier videos that I wouldn't talk for the sake of talking, but one of my commenters commented to me that these videos were like podcasts, only with something to watch. So with that in mind, I thought I would try and maintain that view of things so that people who are listening, who are just watching, can turn the sound down if they don't want to hear me talk. That's okay. And people who want to hear my thoughts on whatever it is I'm talking about today can do that as well. So I thought I would throw out today for discussion and see what people think, and I'll say my things about it, and then we'll see what other people say in a little while. Now, at this point, we're about 21 kilometres from Gunning. But okay, so the discussion today will be about two wheels versus three wheels. Now, before anybody turns off or jumps on their high horse or whatever and carries on, let's be clear. Any machine, if you want to call it that, with three wheels is not a bike, it's a trike. Now, there are trikes with two wheels at the front, like the Piaggio MP3 that I talked about that I owned in one of the earlier videos. There are the Can-Am Spiders and Rikers that have two wheels at the front, and then there are the trikes that have two wheels at the back. So there are sort of two different configurations here, and I'll sort of say what I think about each of those. Starting off with the two wheels at the back, one of the things I notice is that people who own Goldwings in particular, at some point, not all of them, but I've seen Goldwings that have been converted from two wheels to trikes. And my assumption is that the people who own those Goldwings are getting on in years, around my age, in the late 60s and early 70s, and they still want to keep riding, but they figure holding up a nearly 400 kilo bike is becoming a challenge. They know that the Goldwing will go on forever. We go for 500,000 kilometres without any great problems, and they don't want to trade it in, and they don't want to stop riding, so they figure, well, I'll get it converted to a trike. And there's a whole engineering process that's gone through there, which I don't really know a lot about, but I imagine there's some sort of diff, like you'd find in a car, put into it, so that the rear wheels are driven. With those bikes, the weight distribution is fairly even between the front, where the engine still is, and it's either in front of the rider or underneath the rider, and the trike conversion part, which is at the back, and so the weight distribution is fairly evenly balanced. I imagine that some people buy trikes because they look at them and they think, I like the look of these things, and I want a three-wheeler, and I want to enjoy riding that way, and I want the security and comfort of being able to be on my bike and not have to worry about it tipping over or whatever, and so they go for a trike straight away. I have seen some trike conversion kits which are essentially a bolt-on, and what happens is you get these two extra wheels that you are on a frame, and you bolt this frame to the frame of your bike or scooter. I've seen it on a Suzuki Bergman scooter. And so if you want to go riding and you want to put a person on the back, then you can bolt this kit on, and the person will not have any concerns about the stability bike, because in fact you've got 3 wheels at the back. The driven wheel is still kept, and the 2 wheels act like outriggers on a canoe. And then if you just want to ride by yourself, you just unbolt the kit, and I believe it takes somewhere between 20 minutes and half an hour and a couple of spanners, and you just put in the garage and you go away with your 2-wheelers. So I've seen those. I've only seen 1 or 2 of those. I'm not sure about costs for either of those 2 methods, whether you get the full conversion or you just get this bolt-on kit. Then there are the Harley-Davidson type things that are like an ice cream delivery motorcycle. The great big boot at the back. They're about $55,000 plus on roads. I've never ridden one and I've never driven one, so I don't know anything about how they handle. I have seen those trikes with the 2 wheels at the back. I think there are a couple of different brands. There's a brand called Ray Wecco, I think that's how you pronounce it, and then there's Bond Trike, and they have the 2 wheels at the front, and the engine is in the rear of the vehicle. Mostly they're powered by a VW engine of some sort, but I know that sometimes they use other engines like Subaru engines or Ford Festiva type engines, those kind of things as well. Most of them are manual transmission with the gear lever down by the rider's left hand, but I have seen some that are just fully automatic, just like a car. You put the thing in drive and away you go. I again haven't ridden one of those, but I did take a ride as a pillion. I guess that's what you call it, in one of those when I was in South Australia once. There was a bloke there, had a bit of a tourism business, and just interrupting for a moment, digressing, maybe looking at the video now, on the left-hand side of the road, you should see some wind turbines from one of the other wind farms that are in this area. All right, so going back to talking about the talking about the different types of trikes. Before we do that, I'm just going to wait a moment. We're going to come to an area in a moment called the Devil's Elbow. I'm not sure why it's called that, but there's a sign up advising that the Devil's Elbow is has been realigned. Now, I don't know what it was like before they realigned it, but I can see now that the road is much wider. The vision ahead is much better, and it's a good stretch of road. A couple of good twists in it, and it's a good segment to ride on. Okay, so we're talking about the trikes with the 2 wheels at the back. I've seen some footage on YouTube of blokes roaring down the road with those things, and in the wrong set of conditions, the wind gets under the front wheel and lifts it off the road, almost as if you're doing a wheelie. But this is an unintentional thing. It's just that the wind has got under the bike, and because it's so light at the front and all the weight is at the back, it's lifted the front wheel off the road. And I guess if the wind was strong enough and the rider wasn't totally alert to what they were doing, there would be a tendency for that bike to flip over. I did say I had taken a ride on one in Victor Harbour in South Australia, where a bloke had a bit of a tourism business. He'd charge you, whatever it was, for a ride around the town. He'd give you tourist commentary. There was a seat for him, and then there was a seat across the back which took 3 passengers. Each of us was myself, my wife, and our granddaughter, and we put on seatbelts and helmets, and we had intercom so we could hear what he was saying. I must say we were much higher up than the rider was, and we were getting a bit windblown at times. And I recall him saying at the time, if you feel as if the wind's getting under your helmet, just dip your head down a bit. Because I've never been the pillion on any other bike, I can't give you a comparison or say what it was like to be the pillion on that compared to anything else. Felt the ride was quite comfortable, and I quite enjoyed it. But I have noticed that thing a couple of times on YouTube. I've seen some video of these things almost doing this wheelie. Now, the other type of trike is these ones with the 2 wheels at the front, like the Can-Am Spiders and the Can-Am Ryker. The Ryker, as you may know, comes in the 600 and 900 configuration, and the Spider itself is now a 1300. I think it actually might be 1330, and it's a 3-cylinder setup. It used to be a 1000 cc engine twin, but they've dispensed with that now, and they've gone to the 1300 triple setup. The Can-Am has a full acronym, a full alphabet of the acronyms of all safety features that you could possibly think of to put on a bike or a car, the Can-Am Spyders have them. They have traction control, they have stability control, they have EFT, ABS, and I don't know what else, so that it is almost impossible to flip them over. The wheels are quite reasonably, almost as wide apart at the front as you would be for a car. And with all these stability controls and traction controls and so on, and so many electronic sensors in these bikes that if you go into a corner and you go in too fast, the bike will automatically cut power to the front wheels to restabilize itself before any of the wheels start lifting off the ground, or before you start drifting or sliding or losing traction. The bike will have responded, recognizing that you're traveling too fast, and it will adjust the speed of the bike accordingly. I think most of them now have the finger and thumb transmission thing, like a dual clutch paddle thing. You just flick the thing with your thumb to change up. And if you want to change down, you can use your pointer finger, or most of them work now if you just turn the throttle. If you close the throttle off, as you're coming to an intersection or lights or something, the bike will automatically, or the machine will automatically change down. They only have now one brake, which is a foot brake. So they only have one brake. They have one disc on each of the two front wheels and one on the rear. But all the brakes are linked through one pedal. So you're not sort of working out where's the clutch, where's the handbrake, push your foot on the foot brake, and it's all balanced and ABS and all that sort of stuff, so that you will get balanced, even braking spread across the three wheels. I think they're all belt driven. The earlier models, the 1000cc engines, had a bit of a problem with heat being blown back on the rider. But in the newer models, the 1300s, they've repositioned the radiators for one thing. But secondly, they have done something with the polarity of the fans, so that when the bike is stationary, instead of the fan blowing heat back onto the rider's legs, that's where the issue was, the polarity of the fan was reversed, and it sucked that air away from the radiator and blew it out in front of the bike. So obviously, as you drove off, you drove through that warm air, but it didn't blow onto your leg while you were sitting at the traffic lights or the roundabout or whatever. One thing, I have ridden one of those Can-Am Spyders a couple of times. The first one was a very short ride, and the second one was probably an hour and a half. And the one thing that I learnt from it was that you have to adjust everything you know, or forget everything you already knew about. Just interrupting for a moment, we've gone across the Lachlan River at the Inglewood Bridge there. The Lachlan River, I'm imagining, was named after Lachlan Macquarie, who was one of the early governors of New South Wales. Now, going back to talking about how to handle the Spider, because it's a three-wheel machine, you can't lean it like you can a motorcycle. It doesn't counter steer, it doesn't lean, doesn't do any of those sort of things. You can lean your body into the corner to help the bike go into the corner or go into the curve or whatever. But the thing you have to do is adjust your grip. So if you're one of those guys like me that has the grip of death on the throttle, you have to learn to have very soft hands, because if you're pulling too hard on the right hand, the bike will pull to the left almost to compensate. You can sense that you are pulling it too hard, and as a consequence, tending to drift towards the centre of the road. So it will compensate by trying to direct you further towards the left of the road. So you've got to have soft hands, and it's probably a good idea in that circumstance to use the cruise control and just have a very light touch on the right hand to keep this bike going in a straight line and stable. Again, I've never been a pillion on it, but I can imagine that the seat looks very comfortable on the touring models with the hard cases and everything that opens and shuts and bells and whistles and radios and all that sort of stuff. The seat looks quite comfortable, but it is also up quite high. Having said that, to my knowledge, the screen is electrically adjustable, and hopefully that would take some of the wind off the pillion rider while they're on the bike. Well, so those are my thoughts about two wheels versus three wheels. My argument always is just ride what you like, and whatever you want to ride that takes you where you want to go when you want to go there. I did at one stage think about trading in my Kawasaki for a Spider, but I couldn't come to an agreed amount of how much of my money was going to change hands with the dealer. So I kept the Kawasaki, obviously, and didn't buy the Spider. I often still look and see what's for sale bike sales and places like that, just to see what they look like and what they're asking for them. As I said, my advice is ride the bike you like, ride the way you like, ride the style you like. It's not how fast you go or how quickly you can get there. It's the fact that you're on the ride in the first place, to me, that counts. All right, I didn't get to talk much about the landscape, but I hope you can see here that the road in most cases is pretty good condition. It has good visibility. It's quite wide in places. Markings are good, not too many potholes, and you get a good vision of the land and the scenery as you're going ahead. And we're just coming up to the intersection that takes you turning right, as you can see, and heading down towards Gunning. And we're in the last minute and a bit of this video, and we will not get into Gunning before this video runs out. So if you're waiting to see Gunning, you'll have to wait for the next video. I'll say again, thank you to all those people who've been watching, and thank you to those people who've been commenting. Your feedback and comments are most welcome. If you've got ideas about how you think I might be able to improve the videos, bearing in mind what I told you in my very first one about what my setup is, and if you've got any ideas about how to improve the audio, again, bearing in mind what I've said about my setup, I'm happy to listen to those and willing to give it a go. My idea is just for me to film this stuff and to talk about things that I'm interested in while I'm out on the road, and for you to just hopefully enjoy what it is that what I've filmed, what it is you're seeing. Once again, thanks everyone for watching. Next video will be coming very shortly, and we will be into Gunning and onto the next section of the road, which is from Gunning to Gundaroo.